Coming up, door knocking in gang territory, turning mobile homes into cash flowing notes, and becoming a world-class copywriter, the king of drip campaigns. Welcome back, everybody, to the Military Millionaire podcast. If you're new here, we have a community that helps spread the good word of financial freedom and investing for service members and veterans so that you can enjoy the freedoms that you've worked so hard to defend. Now, today's guest is a pipeline welder turned real estate investor turned serial entrepreneur. Paul started in 2015 with no knowledge of businesses, sales, money, etc. Blue collar worker. He was a welder, construction crew, natural gas pipeline utility, all kinds of blue collar stuff. And after many late nights and not having enough money, he ventured into the rabbit hole of finding deals off market. From direct mail and door knocking in gang infested neighborhoods and blowing lots of money without any results, he finally caught a break with Lonnie Deals, which is flipping mobile homes into notes, which we'll get into in the show, selling the units on payments. Then Paul shifted into land flipping and eventually copywriting. And now he runs a system helping people craft drip campaigns for their follow-up systems as a real estate investor. Now, he's achieved success in copywriting and even Investor Carrot. My good friend Ryan Dossey have employed him as their client. Please give a long, hard welcome to Paul DeCampo. Paul DeCampo, welcome to the show. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Happy to be on, dude.
Yeah, this is fun. We've kind of, I would say we've been around each other's circles for a little while. I don't know that we've interacted a ton directly, but I'm excited about this.
Yeah. Via some text, some Slack messages back and forth, but yeah,
nothing.
mutually know each other, I guess, from other people.
Slack, the most personal of interactions.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna dig into this later. I always like to just kind of run off with a kind of like down the road question first. I'm curious what the spark was that got you into copywriting.
Sure. I was flipping land at the time, flipping mobile homes as well. And, I guess what got me into it, it's kind of indirectly, but back in 2015, I started wholesaling and I was struggling, meaning it was my first entrepreneur. I come from a blue collar background and I was a welder, pipeline welder. I ran a crew. That was actually, it was actually a decent job looking back. I mean, as far as the workload, it was good and it paid well, but I was looking, my immediate goal was to get out, and it was to get out because of not reasons of financial means, because it paid well. I mean, when you're a utility worker, you get paid pretty well, but a means of just freedom, just working when I want, what I want, having no cap on my income. It's union, so you have kind of a cap, and no matter how good of a job you do, the next guy who's a lazy POS gets the same pay as you. Those were the kind of principles that stirred me out of it. Getting into wholesaling, that's kind of fell into bigger pockets, all that, that whole rabbit hole of, and I'm out door knocking probate leads, foreclosure leads. I'm sending lots of direct mail because I wasn't poor. I'm getting paid six figures a year to be a welder, and
it's a great gig.
Yeah, and so I had money to spare for a marketing budget, but that's a dangerous place to be in, because when you don't know any better and you just kind of follow, just send direct mail, just hire this calling center, and you get leads, and you're like, what the hell do I do now? And so, I remember, I remember also sitting in the parking lot of a Starbucks, following up with these leads, these direct mail leads that I got. Not really, you have no direction. It's just okay, well, I'm going to follow up with Jane here. She said she wasn't too sure, but you know what? I followed up with her 2 weeks ago. I'm going to hold off on that. I'm going to follow up with her in another week. And I kept, and anyway, long story short is, I struggled getting deals under contract, coming just because it's your first entrepreneur journey. You don't know anything about sales, anything about marketing. But things turned when I started, when I transitioned from houses to mobile homes. And that's a whole thing called Lonnie Deals, where, in my market, very little people were doing it, and full of mobile home parks. And so there was immediate gratification, immediate reward, because it was like, wow, these sellers are like they're just giving you your property. It's like giving them the property. And then there's an exit strategy on top of that. There's a really good exit strategy, which is turning it into a note, into a cash flowing note. And then I did the same thing in land. So to answer your question of why I got into copywriting was because of my struggle, where I realized like I'm not good at marketing. Let me jump into what Carrot has to say, what different people have to say. Copywriting was mentioned, dove into that rabbit hole of it. I'm kind of condensing the story to make it brief so we're not rambling here, but accidentally, I kind of fell in, not accidentally, but kind of fell in and became a copywriter for Carrot because they're reaching out to their audience and I was a Carrot member. I said, why the hell not? I'll give it a try. And just that, and then just got in that rabbit hole and learning the whole world of copywriting and realizing, oh, there's a whole world where you can just write and get paid to write, get paid well to write something small. And so I was in both those two roles of hustling for deals and then also doing these copywriting gigs as well. Starting off small, but then I started getting a little bigger. I started writing for like land developers who were looking for buyers via direct mail. And so working for coaches, then started transitioning to coaches, software vendors in the RI niche, applying that same concept to my land flipping business. And so, yeah. And then there was a point in my decision in my life where I had too many things going on, and my goal was to get out of my W-2. And I decided to just go full head on with copywriting because it was the fastest route. I can just in one day to the next, I can have enough income, monthly income, to support for my personal income. So that was the whole. That's a long story to your long answer to your question of why I got into copywriting.
Well, no, I mean, it is. It's a story, and it's a good answer. I mean, if you've just been like, I heard someone say I should do it, like, all right, cool. Well, that doesn't give us
Right.
a ton of context. And copywriting is one of those. It's up there with like media buying, and so for anyone who doesn't know, copywriting is just writing all the. Well, it's not just. But there's a lot to it, but it's the guys who, if you've ever been reading an ad or reading an email or reading even a caption on social media that's selling something. It was probably written, if it's any good, it was probably written by a copywriter because most knuckleheads like me are like, buy my course, and that doesn't work. So it's like it's the art of persuasion via rhetoric, right? So it's a fun gig, and it's something that it's one of those high paying skills that you can scale and do virtually and do, unlike like welding's a great skill, but you got to show up and put a welder's mask on every day. And you're kind of stuck, working when and where and how and on what. Whereas with copy, the world's your oyster. And I think like running ads on social media is another one that's like a really valuable skill if you get good at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, there's different levels of it too. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure I would imagine there's hardly anyone in your audience that is like, I want to be a copywriter because they're investing already. But it's one of those things where, you got to, you got to take into account your end goal, your exit strategy, your end goals. You have different layers of end goals, right? So my immediate end goal was to get rid of my W-2, and this skill set was something I actually enjoyed, and I was actually getting pretty good at it. And so you got to build your business, and based off of what your preferences are, right? I mean, nice thing about real estate is that there's so many different mechanisms for you to operate in it. And if you don't like rubbing elbows with people or sellers, I should say, and that's an aspect I don't like at all. I don't like chasing sellers. Well, there's a route for you somewhere in the real estate space to transition into something that you actually like doing. A lot of people like marketing, so they get into that part of the aspect of mailing, of list creation, of list creation. So yeah, all kinds of routes you could take. I just took the copywriting route because I actually enjoyed doing it. I really do. It's kind of it fits my personality. That's something, I'm big into knowing yourself, right? There's all kinds of stuff, all kinds of different, not saying one is right over the other, but the Colby method, I'm a big fan of. And I've read this from Robert Kiyosaki in one of his books. I think it was like the rich smart kid, rich dad or something. It was one written if you have kids. And
Okay.
at the end of it, there's a chapter about using your personality to figure out what you want to invest in. And for him, for Robert Kiyosaki himself, I don't know if you're familiar with the whole Colby method score, but
Mm-mm.
it's like a four level type of score. But for him, his personality, he's very extroverted and he's very I shouldn't say extroverted. He's very that's not Colby method. He's very into the external world. He's very into high risk type of sports. So he's a in the military. He was
Yeah, he's a
a
helicopter pilot.
yes, exactly. So he's kind of into a high risk personality, and then he also likes physical things. So that's why he naturally went into the game board industry. So he's selling game boards and real estate. He loves real estate, the physical, tangible aspect of it. While somebody else might love stocks because it's the research of it, something that's digital. They don't give a crap about the whole the whole physical, tangible things of it. I've heard a lot of us just say, I love real estate because it's something tangible, something physical you invest in. So anyway, copywriting fit my personality, and it was immediate gratification to move on to my next goal. So
Love it. All right, we're gonna go back in time for a minute because you mentioned there you don't really like the direct interaction with sellers. So how in the world did door knocking go for you, and what got you into that? Because that
it
is
was
anyone who doesn't know or hasn't done it, that is the absolute like worst way you could ever sell anything, in my opinion. It is. I don't enjoy it at all. I've also never had any success from it, and I'm sure that's because I don't enjoy it at all. So I don't put the effort in.
yeah. You don't hear a lot about door knocking these days. I think that I think it's gone away these days from the whole wholesaling circles because you can just blast text 2,000 people and you don't have to interact with them. But I think it's a great way, especially if you're new to the business, to actually just get in front of people. If you have no other means, if you have no other if you have no money and you're just like, I want to start real estate. Well, um, if you want to start anything, you have to take into account like what is the first thing that you need to do, and like real estate, for example, it's like, well, uh, if I want to start getting deals off market, I need to make lots and lots of offers. That's like the first sale. And I Omnidrip is a business where we create follow up systems for investors, and that's one of the things I talk about. Is like, what's the first sale you have to make? Well, I have to make a bunch of offers. Are you making enough offers every single week? Oh no, why aren't you making enough offers? Well, I don't have money for mailing. Well, you can get a list of sellers and you can go and door knock their house then if you have no other means of reaching out to them. Um, so why did I get into door knocking? And it was just at the time, it was just all I knew besides mail. And I remember going to an event, a wholesaling event, and there was this guy I befriended there. Is that the word? We became friends, and
Yeah.
and uh, and he was a very extroverted person. And we got to know him. He said, "Hey, let's go door knocking tomorrow." I'm like, it was like I didn't know what to say. I'm like, okay, and I knew that like I was, the whole mindset mantra of things and cliches of, hey, if you're afraid of something, that's probably what you should do. And so I said, okay, let's do it. And then I got and started door knocking every single week with the dude. And it was just his natural skill set to be in front of people. And so I was fortunate to have somebody on my side that was good at this already. I mean, we've been chased down by. An email story that I have, and people opt into my email list to have this story in there, that we actually got chased down by gang members in Pomona. And so Pomona, California, it's like Pomona is about 30 minutes from LA, and it's where at some point in history where all the LA gangs are getting kicked out, they went east to Pomona and east to San Bernardino. So we went door knocking for foreclosures in Pomona, and he's a very extravagant person. This partner of mine. So he drives a souped up BMW, and at the time, so we're sitting there going over like our notes, going over our leads, and then all of a sudden, a car pulls up next to us and waves gang signs at us. And we're like, what the hell? Okay. And then he's looking in his rearview mirror, and then the car busts a U-turn and parks right behind us. And we're like, oh shit, like what's going on here? And then granted, this partner, he's black, and then I've this is irrelevant. Well, this is relevant to the story because
Oh, I think
Pomona
it's. I mean, if everybody's that color, then it blends in. If you're in
right.
Italian mafia world, then it'd be not beneficial. So yeah, it's.
Yes. So, and Pomona's mainly Latino gangs. And so,
Mm.
okay, so you got that mix right there. So they stop, and we see the door open, and so he takes off. They chase. They're right behind us. So we're driving through these streets, these busy streets, with these guys throwing gang signs at us through the window, chasing us, like getting up to our bumper. Fortunately, like we got. I'm on the call. I'm getting on the call with PD, Pomona PD. Of course, they're slow. I'm on hold for like 5 minutes, and so
They're like,
but
oh, another gang incident.
yeah, but we finally we get away. Yeah, it felt like an eternity, but it was probably only like not even 10 minutes. So yeah, I hope I don't scare anybody to not door knock, but that's that's the reality of it.
Maybe just pick your
Uh,
neighborhoods a little better.
if you do it, drive a beat up car, don't don't be so I don't know, like
Well,
you're
you
right.
do it in like Missouri, it's constitutional carry. You just carry a firearm, and you
Yeah,
just, there's those,
exactly.
I try to avoid going into gang neighborhoods, but luckily for me, there aren't really any around here. So,
Yeah.
Jesus. All right. So I see why you moved on from that side of marketing. I don't blame you. So tell me, I want to know a little bit. I love creative financing stuff, so I'd love to hear just a little overview on. You mentioned flipping mobile homes into notes, and that's very intriguing to me. I mean, I know the fundamentals of you buy a park and maybe you have some park owned homes and then you try to seller finance them to the tenants so that you don't have park owned homes because the name of the game is basically lot rent and not having to do maintenance. But is it sounds like you were doing this on an individual basis, not as a park owner. So I'm curious how that
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah, absolutely. And now it's gotten a lot more popular I don't live in Southern California anymore. I live in North Idaho now.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get on my W-2 is because I'm kind of in servitude to Southern California. I wanted to get out of California. And so mobile home deals. So there's this, there's a ton of mobile home parks in that area. And mobile homes tend to be the owners tend to be a lot more motivated than a Southern California single family house owner, and so it's a lot easier to purchase those at 25 30 cents on the dollar, maybe a little higher, 40 cents on the dollar if it's a bigger park. And you have different types of parks. You've got your corporate parks. Those are nicer homes, and you got your kind of run of the mill parks that probably have like 20 or less mobile homes. Some of them are trailers, some of them are, a little better. Um, but in either case, you can make money on either one of those. And uh, I would go in, and I was door knocking those too. So I wasn't done door knocking, but my single lead source was SEO because this is at the point where there's a lot of stories being meshed here, but this is at the point where I'm learning copywriting. I'm also learning marketing. So I built an SEO website. Nobody in my area had one at the time that's
Yeah.
targeting mobile homes. And so that was one of my number one sources for leads. It was also, and I was also getting in contact with the park manager, because that's probably if you can rub elbows with park managers who are they're the eyes and ears of the park, so they can tell you exactly who's a seller, who's not a seller. And so anyway, that was I would meet with the seller, make an offer, and I would usually buy it. My max buy-in cost for a mobile home was 50% of the resale value of it, and that's all in cost. So that's buying and that's rehab, and so this is somewhat like what's called Lonnie deals. It's a little different though. Lonnie Scruggs, by the way, that's a book you can get if you ever anyone's ever interested in this whole strategy. Lonnie Scruggs deals on wheels. It's on Amazon, and so you buy it with your cash, and you're buying it all out. There's these things don't have a loan on it, so you don't have to, you typically don't have a loan on it, so you don't have to worry about that. And I'm buying it all just free and clear from the owner, and then I'm putting it back on the market. I'm doing any kind of fixing up that needs to be, putting it back on the market for seller finance, finding an owner, because typically these things aren't, you're not going to find, it's really hard to find a loan on it, to get a lender to loan on it. And so you're either buying it all cash, or you have to find the very few limited lenders that are out there, and they usually have really strict requirements, and so you really minimize your pool of buyers. But so instead, I expanded my pool of buyers by offering financing myself, and it would be something like typically maybe 10% down, and the rents were the not the rents, the mortgage on it, plus the lot rent was equal to the area's single family rents. I don't know if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
so let's just give a real example. Like if the area rents for a 3 bedroom was 2 grand in that area for single family house, I want to make sure that the new buyer's total monthly cost is less than 2,000. Okay, that includes his lot rent, and that includes the mortgage to me. I'm not responsible for the lot rent. That's they understand that. I understand that. Park managers understand that. So they have to pay that lot rent. Now, if they don't pay the lot rent, um, typically park manager is supposed to notify you because you're a lien holder now. And
Yeah.
so as a lien holder, you have certain rights, and you can take a portion, if it actually goes into auction, they're going to pay you out on that and all that. I would say I've never gotten to that point where I actually got into an auction sale. Things were always resolved beforehand, or they relinquished their note and I resold it. But that's kind of the gist of it. I mean, I try to keep it brief there, but basically, people do this frequently with there's a guy that used to, I don't know where he's at, Mitch Stevens. I think he used to teach this. He's like his big thing is like he's done like 1,000 deals, and he would buy single family. He'd use private money to buy it all cash, and then he'd resell it on seller financing. And that might be a nice, coming up with these new market trends. That might be something that's appealing to people, because you might be able to position yourself at a lower interest rate, maybe, or people have a harder time if there's restrictions on lending these days. I'm not, I haven't been in the single family world for a while, so I'm not too familiar on the lending restrictions today.
Yeah. So I mean, you've dabbled in a lot of different strategies, right? Um, including land flipping, which you haven't
Land
really
is the
chatted
same
about.
way. Land is the same way, and I liked land even better because I didn't
I was
have to
going to
deal.
ask if that was your favorite.
That was my favorite, as far as the amount of work that's required. So, and it was so easy to get a. I don't know about today because I haven't bought a piece of land in about 2 years now, and so. Um, and I actually just sold. I just finished up my notes not too long ago,
Hmm.
and so that was to get a property under contract, raw vacant land. I'm not talking about infill lots that are in your city. I'm talking about land in the mountains somewhere, in the desert somewhere. To get that property tied up in contract for like 25 cents on the dollar, it was as simple as sending out 1,000 mailers, and I'd have a signed contract in the mail. Like not just one, I'd have like 3 to 5, maybe more signed contracts in the mail. Now, not all of them were like home runs. All of them were junk. It's like, dude, what the hell can I do with this land? Um, and so I had to pick and choose, but it was so easy to just acquire something. I don't have to really talk to sellers anymore. I don't have to chase them down. The flip side to that is that selling them is a little more difficult right now. The amount of effort that wholesalers have to acquire a single family house, that effort is now flipped in land, it's flipped to the selling side of things. So now you're making your marketing, you're putting your listings up different places. You have land, you have land listing places, you have land watch. You can do pay-per-click type ads, Google ads. You can do Facebook ads. A lot of people are doing the free listings on Facebook. That worked well. So you're really hustling to get your listing out there, attract leads, talk to them, and close them. So that's the big caveat to that. You are chasing buyers instead of sellers. So there's the flip side of it. You're doing more effort on the buying side of things. You're doing land watch. You're doing different. There's a bunch of different listings for land. You can do Facebook free classified listings. And you're hustling a lot more for those buyers, like I mentioned earlier. So same thing though with mobile homes is I'm buying it all cash. Typically, I'm aiming for 25 cents on the dollar. When I say 25 cents on the dollar, I mean I'm asking what can I get for this piece of property, this raw vacant land today, based off, and it's an art when it comes to comping these things. Okay, these things are not clear like regular single family houses. It's all over the place. So it's really an art. You got to kind of figure it out, and you got to pick something and go with it. So if the house is if the raw vacant land I can get for retail at 10 grand, I'm gonna send a blind offer in the mail for $2,500, and I'll send them a check. I'll send them a cashier's check. Well, some people don't do cashier's checks. I do cashier's checks. And so, and at the time I closed myself, I didn't use like title. I didn't use escrow, which is hindsight of things is stupid in the sense that it's a lot of work to do. Like it's not like you can scale it, right? You can hire somebody to do it, but just use an escrow company for a couple $100. And so, and then I put it back on the market, resell it, and the biggest selling point is they can sell it on payments. And I typically ask for 50% to 100% of what I paid for it on my down payment, and then monthly payments till it's paid off. So if it's like a retail value of 10 grand, I might do 8 grand, might lower down a little bit, just to be more competitive on the market, depending on what's listed. And then I'll have a 3 to 5 year note, $100, $200, depending on what they put down on it every single month. And I don't do interest. I just do 0% interest. So it's more appealing. Because realistically, if I add interest to something that low, I mean, what am I actually getting? I'm not getting that much. So it's like, just keep it at 0. I can raise the price if I want a little bit more, if I want to be really greedy about it. And plus you get into issues with like Dodd-Frank. You have to be real careful with Dodd-Frank. So there's things you have to do. You have to go through for mobile home, not necessarily land, but for mobile home, you got to go through MLO, a mortgage loan originator, to originate your loan. There's people that do it for you for a flat fee. They'll go ahead and all they're really doing is they're looking at the potential buyer, saying, do they qualify for this loan, for your seller finance loan? So I'm not a lawyer, but get with somebody, a Dodd-Frank guy who knows, attorney, figure out what you need to do to actually sell something on seller finance. So, and your audio is cutting out there, but something I was going to mention, Dave, is the ROI on these things are amazing, especially the mobile homes too. So, if you calculate out your ROI, and if you use like a financial calculator to figure this all out, I mean, if you're looking at a lot of people go away from like the cheap, ugly trailers, but typically those have a pretty good large buyer pool, depending on your market. And then your ROI on that is amazing. Like you're talking about 60 to 100%, to even more per year ROI on your money, on your initial investment. Land is even more. Because I'm trying to get as much of my investment back as much and as fast as possible. So the ROI is even better for land.
I love it. Yeah. And apparently it helps if I unmute myself before I start talking as far as my audio goes. But yeah, I've done one land deal kind of by accident, and it's been great. I should have done more for the down payment, but I did I bought it for $8,500. I sold it for 20 with 5% interest and with a 3-year balloon. And I only took like 10% down, so I probably could have done more than that. But I mean, it's whatever. We're 2.5 years in, so I should have a check for 17 coming in about 6 months to finish it out. So yeah, pretty sweet. It was accidental, but I mean, I love the idea of just holding the note. I've looked at the idea of maybe selling some of my current rental properties that way and just not messing with them anymore. So we'll see. Shifting gears more towards the modern Paul. You heard I gave kind of my thoughts, my definition on copywriting, just out of curiosity in your own words. We already talked about how you got started. So what would you say is copywriting?
There's all kinds of levels. I mean, so it's kind of hard to.
That's fair.
It depends on what you're doing. It's like different levels of real estate investing, right? And it's the same. So you can be an email copywriter. You can be e-commerce copywriter strictly for that. You can be a direct response copywriter who's writing these big packages, these big direct mail packages, or VSLs selling some new pill that makes your thing grow bigger.
Massive erection.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know how polite I'm supposed to be on this.
Oh, it's explicit. You say however, whatever. Yeah, I made a TikTok video the other day where I was making fun of people getting boob jobs to raise capital, and I stuffed a cucumber in my sweatpants and was like, "I'm leading the charge for male cosmetic surgery."
Okay, so perfect. So
I was going to get canceled, and I had more women comment on that supportingly than I've had on any of my actual legitimate posts. So lesson learned.
Yeah, wow. But lesson learned: if you're single, go on TikTok, put a cucumber in your pants. You may get
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah. Or you can just take this pill that some of these direct response writers sell.
Guaranteed.
You're gonna have a cucumber in your pants, a real live cucumber. So, so
perfect.
some different kinds of levels of copy. What I do for in this industry in real estate investing is I shifted. How can I help real estate investors with what my skill set? I can help with coaches with their email marketing, which is mainly what I do. I do a lot of email marketing. I can help with their landing pages, things, selling whatever product they have to real estate investors. But how can I actually serve real estate investors? So I created Omnidrip.
Please tell me that's the clock that was behind you that you thought was dead.
Yeah, that's the clock. It came back to life, apparently.
Right. For anyone listening, right before we recorded, he had this old school clock, like 100-year-old. Yeah, there we go. That thing behind him. And he's like, man, I thought this was super cool, but it's dead. It's not even really that cool. I'm going to take it off the bookshelf. So the fact that it just went off is hilarious.
Yeah. Something about your show or your beard brought it back to life.
That's how I work in real estate too. I bring dead deals back to life.
I think you reminded him of his, the clockmaker that originally, built him.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, so copy. So how can I serve real estate investors with my skill set? So, I noticed one thing about what real estate investors are coming to me for, other than SEO, which is something I do as well, but they're coming to me to help them build drip sequences, follow-up systems, things like that. So the guy's doing lots of volume. The wholesaler's doing lots of volume. So I've done this over the years for people for Carrot, and people just kind of landing on my lap. Not really me going after it. Didn't even know there's like a need for it yet. And then realize how much people ask about this stuff. The thing is, what's the problem that's being solved is investors focus a ton of money and time into lead generation. And rightfully so. That's your fuel for your business. But then a lot of them have poor conversion rates on the back end, and they're worried about all the hot leads, all the ones that are saying like their hair's on fire, they need to sell yesterday, and they focus on that, while the ones that either ghost or express to them, hey, not now, maybe, but later, whatever situation is putting on the fence. They tend to put them like in a really limp, speaking of, cucumbers, putting them in a limp follow-up sequence that the CRM gave them, and it kind of gets lost in the weeds, and they find out they sold to somebody else, they're not responding, etc. And then they don't know, like, if they want to build their own, this is where copy comes in. If they want to build their own messages, they don't know what to say besides, are you still interested in selling, and some variation of it. So it's like imagine you as a seller and you constantly get this, it's like, are you still interested in selling? Hey, are you still up for selling? Can I get, it's the same mantra every single text message. When there's in copy 101, there's a whole ton of things you can say that aren't just that. The question, the CTA, the call to action, I should say, is somewhat explicit, or the call to action could be something else. And so that's one of the things that actually an old school investor taught me. I talk a lot about this, and I think it was really impactful to me. It's impactful for a lot of people. So, when I was struggling door knocking, being on seller appointments, getting no a lot, getting doors slammed in my face, there's an old school investor at the time that he had me do an exercise where I sit down and I write down 100 different ways that I benefit a seller. Because we tend to be very narrowed in, like, it's all about the offer, it's all about the price, but there's value exchange in our transaction somewhere. And so I never got to 100. I think I got to like 50 or something like that. But it did two things. One, it gave me obvious copy fodder if I'm writing a SEO page, if I'm writing whatever messages or sales presentations, whatever it is that you're going to the door for. And it also gives you confidence that it's something that you're actually providing a service and value. And that's how this is capitalism. And so it only works when you're providing value in some way. So that was hugely beneficial to me. And I always look back to that and realize that, there's a ton of things you can say besides, hey, are you still interested in selling? That message is self-serving, by the way. And it's okay to ask that in my philosophy of follow-up. I do ask that every once in a while. It's appropriate. You need a direct question, like, hey, we haven't spoken in like 3 months. Are you still selling, or did you sell your property so I can update my records? There's a direct question in my system. But in between, you have a lot more value message. I'm sending people back to the website, sending them an article. That if it's a landlord who's looking to sell, he has tenants in the house, I'm sending him an article that shows him how to sell with tenants, because, hey, I want to be the authority figure here. I want to be the expert. I'm sending back my website so that I can retarget again later. I'm sending them to my Google reviews page for the social proof to show them I've got 10, 20 real actual sellers who had good things to say about me. I'm sending email, I'm sending SMS, I'm sending direct mail as well. I'm a big believer in direct mail these days for follow-up, not just for lead generation, but I can attest to this, by the way. I can attest to follow-up being like a mechanism that actually works for following up, because my lifestyle today, I 100% attribute to mailing folks who I've already spoken to. Clients that get on the phone, maybe they haven't heard from me for a while, I'll send them a book and it starts a conversation again. I will, when I used to do podcasts, I would send somebody a thank you card in the mail. And so these little, and that's part of my system, by the way, for investors, is I actually have greeting cards where it makes sense for people who either, they get on an appointment with you, they signed with somebody else, say they signed with a different investor. I send them a thank you card for at least being grateful that we met, being appreciative that they gave us an opportunity to give them an offer. So I have multiple sequences for every single event that makes sense, because here's the thing. Here's a problem I solve. If you have a generic drip for somebody who ghosted you, and that happens quite a bit. And this is where the magic happens when you have a ghosted lead. But if you have a generic drip for no contact or ghosted leads, and you put them in there, the problem with that is you have leads that haven't gotten an offer. You have leads that are landlords. You have leads that did get an offer or didn't get an appointment, who said no to you, etc. You have all these different avenues. And so your call to action is very generic. While if I know, if I have a drip for, they haven't got an appointment yet and they haven't had an offer given yet, and they're a landlord, bam, I can leverage that problem that they have tenants in the house, and I could leverage the right call to action, which is the next sale. The next sale is, hey, let's get on an appointment. Hey, get on my calendar link right here to get on an appointment. Hey, reply back so we can so you can at least see my cash offer, right? So I can be very specific. So that's where copy comes in. I can be copy. One of the principles and strategies is being very specific about what you want, and clear instructions on what to do next, right? If you just have everybody under the sun under one drip, you can't be clear. There's this is true for lead generation too, by the way. If you want to be, if you're trying to buy a hotel and you're familiar with this, saying being direct about buying their hotel is more effective than just saying I want to buy your property or your commercial property. Being a little more direct with the language of what you're going to do. This has been split tested, by the way, and a lot of guys that do PPL leads, they know this, they understand this, so they're very direct about the messaging.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense, because the moment I get a generic message, I'm like, stop. Don't text me anymore. Right. So it's got to be at least somewhat personal or on point. Like the number of times I've had people text me about things and I'm like, that's not even what it is. I don't own that or whatever. Yeah, so definitely agree there. And I assume this rolls into REI Omnidrip. So why don't you talk a little bit about what you're doing now?
Sure. So I kind of explained the whole philosophy of what I do right there, and that's basically if somebody needs drips built into their system, I've got a scaled way I do it, in which we have about 24 sequences, and typically people who buy all of them, they use it, they love all of them, they understand the reasons behind all of it, and they use all of them. Or people can pick and choose the sequences they want. So if I just want a missed appointment sequence, I just want deal closed sequence, they can buy that as well. But typically what happens is they fill out a form, because as a copywriter, I want to make sure the message matches their personality, their business. So if they are 100% over the phone appointment type of guy or business, no face-to-face appointments, we make sure that the messages match that. So you're not saying, hey, I'm looking forward to meeting at your house, when it's like, yeah. So if they buy with tenants in the house, right? Right.
I had a great time at your house the other day.
Right.
Like,
so
what the fuck were you doing outside?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, there's all kinds of different ways that can really convolute the message if you're not careful with it. So, that is my attempt of making sure that, one, we're not generic, one, we're direct, and two, we're matching message with business. And so there's other questions, about website, about, we grab, something we do is we go and we grab your testimonials and reviews, and which I think is huge. I think investors really overlook this, but social proof is huge. And so we know for a fact that that when somebody gets a direct mail piece and about buying their house, and they're actually interested in selling, majority of people are going to Google that brand's name, that person's name now. It wasn't the case back when I was sending mail. That wasn't as popular as today. Like, that wasn't a thing back then. So people would do the yellow letters, the hand, just like the Joe Schmo down the street wants to buy your house. But today it's, but today it's a little different. People are a little more skeptical of that. And so what works really well is having that URL that people can Google that name and find out who the hell this person is. And so I think if you're going to build a local brand where you're going to be a volume business, you want to keep getting the leads every single month, I think it's important to build up those reviews. Really important to build up those. You can do case studies. I do case studies for my own personal business, but you can do the Google reviews. You can do the stuff on your website. You can do video testimonials. All of the above. Do it all. Figure out a process and it's important to put it into a process of your business. It's not just because people aren't gonna just out of their heart give a review. Typically, out of their heart, the minority of people are going to do that. And so you have to build a process that asks for that. One, you ask it at the quote closing table. If you're doing that, you asking for that video testimony. Can I get a quick shout out? And having a way of helping them go through, because a lot of people are kind of afraid to, like, well, what do I say? And so having what to tell them to help them get through that video testimony. So it's a genuine and authentic. You're looking for genuine, authentic social proof, and you can tell with like the canned testimonials, right? You're looking for that stuff, and then I hook up a drip sequence on the back end to help just squeeze as much juice as I can. So that drip sequence after the deal is closed is asking for a Google review if you have that, or Facebook, whatever platform you use that can collect these digital reviews. You're asking for it multiple times until you get it, and then asking for a referral. That's part of that sequence too. I mean, it doesn't hurt, right? And like, there's no effort in your part to click a couple buttons, and now they're in a drip sequence that asks these things. Like 3 months down the road, if as long as you're doing the seller right, I mean, if you're a dirty investor and you screw sellers over, obviously that's going to backfire in you. So, but if 3 months down the road, they're still happy, they're moved on, they have a new life, and you ask, hey, do you know anybody else looking to sell? They could know somebody else looking to sell, and it could be another easy lead added into your pipeline, right? So it doesn't. It's like it's the whole thing of like, do you want fries with that? It's a simple question to ask at the end. That can bring up your bottom line at every year. So as long as you have the lead flow for that, deal flow, I should say, for that. So that's my philosophy. What we do is we have emails, we have text message, we have tasks to call. I'm a big believer in tasks. If somebody wants ringless voicemail, they have to kind of do it themselves. I don't recommend ringless voicemail. Apart from like the legality of it on state per state. The other side of it is just you're really weakening your follow-up sequence when you don't have to, and because if I send out a task and I get that task to call a lead, and in that instructions it says, and this is what we do, by the way, in those instructions it says, hey, call lead about whatever. Here's the voicemail script or the framework you can use, so you know what to say. So you're not stumbling, trying to figure out what to say, looking over the notes. I give you exactly what to say in the task. And then if they don't answer, you have that voicemail. So that's 2 touches. That's a missed call notification touch, and that's a voicemail notification. Those are 2 touches. And if most people are like me, I don't look at my voicemail until like 2 months later, right? So you're really narrowing if you're only touching in that way, you're really narrowing the pool of people. And it's all about touches. I'm trying to stack on touches because I have case studies that show how many touches it actually takes to get a lead to respond or to close. I'm not talking about these hot leads that that close in 2 weeks with you. I'm talking about the ones that are on the fence still. I'm seeing over and over again the number 70. I'm not saying that's what I've been seeing with the handful of clients that I've actually dived into their CRM and looked, but I'm seeing 70 touches. So 1 touch is, and it's actually more because certain CRMs don't account for these things, but I'm seeing a touch as a call attempt, voicemail left, SMS sent, direct mail sent, and email sent. So that is all in combination of touches. But there's also the other aspect is how many times they go back to your website. So I push in the drips. I push people to go back to the website in different ways. So those are touches as well. I'm trying to stack on touches because I'm trying to create this brand where they trust you, like you, all that stuff. So
yeah, I think that's a really smart move. I really like the idea of pointing them towards articles that are beneficial to their situation, but also happen to be your website. So it's just further proof of concept, proof of I'm working to kind of build something similar out with like when members join the Facebook group where it's like, what are you most interested in? Oh, the VA loan? Here's all of our VA loan resources. Like they're all articles that we've got that answer 95% of your questions without selling you on why I'm a lender, or whatever. So I think that's super cool.
Yeah, that concept is I didn't invent that concept. It's nothing new. It's copywriting 101. It's making sure the message information is targeted towards where they're at. So like the guy that really like sells this is Ryan, forgot his last name, but the Ask Method. His book is the Ask Method. His last name is at the tip of my tongue, but Ryan Levesque. The Ask Method, where you set up a funnel where it's based off of the questions that they ask. Now, I'm not saying this is what I set up for investors, by the way. I don't want anybody to get confused, but the principles are still there. Where you ask the question and this whole funnel then leads them to maybe you have like 5 different sequences where they go into depending on the results. I kind of do the same thing with what we set up with investors, but it's not a funnel in place. It's just that there's a sequence for everything so that you can easily make a decision on where to put this seller. If the seller says, hey, your offer's too low, and that seller happens to be a landlord or a vacant lead, a vacant house lead, there's a place you can just quickly set them into that, where now the messaging turns into that particular phase of their life where they rejected your offer and they might be searching for other solutions. They might be searching for other offers. So I'm leveraging that scenario. If they tell you that, hey, I'm keeping the house, or they tell you that, hey, selling, I'm not too sure when I'm going to sell. It might be 3, 4, 6 months from now. Rather than, I think there's a big mistake that investors do. They trust the seller's timeline and they set manual tasks based on that timeline, when most of the time might be a false timeline. So, hey, I need to sell in 6 months from now. There's the scenarios there where a good percentage of them are going to sell sooner than that. So, and then you call 6 months from now, like, oh, I already sold it. So I don't want to trust them with that. So instead, put them in a sequence that, as your part of your process, your system, sends them value so they're not annoyed by, hey, are you still interested in selling, over and over again. Instead, I'm sending marketing messages. I'm sending, like you said, articles, but I'm also sending marketing messages that are more valuable than the self-serving direct question. It's more like, hey, I'm letting you know that we're, if you didn't know, you can leave all your stuff behind when you sell your property. These little features, benefits that I talked about earlier. That all these little benefits, all these things that we do to benefit a seller, because a seller, the reasons why they're selling, the reason why they're even interested in a cash offer today is not just because of price, not just because of quickness, although that's a feature in the business. It could be, they're embarrassed to have that sign up in their yard. They've got a job coming up and they fear having 2 mortgages, having a rent and a mortgage, whatever it is. They're embarrassed of people going through their house because it's a giant mess. They're a hoarder and they're really, and so all these little things that we do to help this, as professional buyers, that we do to help a seller. So all these things I'm putting in place, those are no longer self-serving messages. They're actually giving value because you're actually telling them what you do, the benefit that you provide to them. So that fits the scenario. Again, like if it's a landlord, they don't give a shit about being embarrassed about putting a sign up. They're just dealing with the hassle of having a tenant in the house, of having somebody that deals with that. Yeah, that's basically what I do in a nutshell.
I love it. Well, man, I feel like we'll probably have to bring you back at some point and go even further into all this stuff, or maybe have you come run a course or a presentation for the mastermind. But we're coming up on that time. Is there anything that we missed that we should have covered?
I don't know. I don't know. It depends on what you want to hear, what your, books, information, journey. I've had a long journey of different, nothing is ever a straight line. Today what's my investing? And I'll be transparent. I'm not going to lie to people and say I'm an operator today. I'm doing hundreds of deals a day or 100 deals a year. I'm not an operator. I'm a passive investor now. That's just the route that took me here. I'm still in touch with the market, the seller market, I should say, because I write copy for direct mail shops, right? So I'm writing that copy. I'm still in the world of real estate, so I see what sellers are saying and doing. And the only thing that changes from market to market is really, I'd say it's the market trend. What's going on that. So, for example, 2 years ago, and I'll try to make this quick because it's already the hour mark here. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, cash offer, the word cash offer wasn't as sexy to people because cash offers were just thrown everywhere. Yeah. So using that isn't a strong center point in the copy. We'd go with instead things like no realtor commission, something, so these little slight variations in what you're saying. What is the most appealing factor in today's market? What's the whole reason why? What's going on in the market that gives them a reason to even contact you? So interest rates is a big one, right? So if you can find some way to pivot that, because I don't like to just throw up all the benefits and features. Oh, we do this, and that. That gets glazed over. Instead, I want to be very direct and capture the bigger audience and find the one thing. Because in marketing, we have the benefit of having multiple messages, especially when you're doing digital. It's inexpensive. Multiple messages, like in the huge amount of frequency. So you don't have to cram everything you want to say into one message, right? Especially, and if you're doing a sequence of mailers, you don't have to cram everything into one mailer. You can pick one theme that's the strongest theme right now that in your market, and choose that and go with it and have that be the center pivot in your message. So anyway, if there's anything else, we can discuss another time.
We might have to just run it back. Yeah. There's so much to unpack in this world. That's the reality.
And so many roads, so many journeys you can take. So, in so many ways, you can be an operator or investor. You're just a passive investor like yourself, Dave. I think that's more of your route today, right?
Kind of dabble in a lot of stuff, but yeah, doing some more passive stuff for sure. I'm definitely not trying to operate my own deals. Where can people get a hold of you if they'd like more information and or to reach out regarding some drip sequences?
Yeah, they can go to reiomnidrip.com. They can see my website right there in the video. They can go there. They can read a little bit more about it. They can opt in. They can reach out to me at paul@reiomnidrip.com.
Beautiful. Paul, I really appreciate you coming to hang out. I'm glad we made this work, as opposed to when we rescheduled and it didn't show up on my calendar and you popped in and I was like, oh shoot, I'm in the middle of another one. So this is much better. Gotta love it. People think I'm organized. I don't know why.
In the back of my head, I thought that was going to happen again, but I'm going to pop into another interview right now. My face is going to be there. It's publicity. It's free publicity. My face.
There you go. Yeah. There is definitely an interview out there where your face just pops up at the very end. I don't remember which interview that was, but that's funny. So I really appreciate you joining and hanging out, and I'll make sure to link to everything in the show notes, and I'll let you know when the episode comes out, brother. But thank you very much.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, Dave. Take care.
Of course.